Hello guys, welcome to another video. This is AJ. Today I'm going to create an enemy, give it a health bar, and make its health reduce when our player hits it with a bullet. So I'll just quickly create a cube here, name it enemy, and I'll rescale it to have 3 on the y-axis, and maybe give it some color, orange or yellow. Yeah, okay. And a rigid body. I'll also make this a prefab. Now in scripts, I'll create a new script called health and attach it to our enemy. And apply it to prefabs. Now let's open it up in Visual Studios. Here I'm going to introduce 2 variables. Start health, which is a health of the enemy when the game starts. I'm going to set it to 10. And current health, this is the health we are going to change when the player hits the enemy. I'm going to set it to 0. And in start method, I'm just going to make a current health equal to start health. And here I'll create a new method, public void take damage. And I'll pass a damage variable here, float damage, and reduce the current health accordingly. Health minus equal to damage. Now we are going to call this method when the bullet hits the enemy. So inside projectiles, in the onTrigger method, I'll just call other dot get component health take damage. We'll need to pass a damage variable here. So let's quickly create a damage here, and I'll set it to 3. Okay. Yeah. Now in health, let's also destroy the enemy if the health is 0. So if current health less than or equal to 0, I'm just going to call destroy game object, maybe with a delay of 1 second. Let's try this out. So we have our start health and our current health. Now if we hit play, we can see that the current health is set to start health, and now if we hit the enemy 4 times, it should get destroyed, since the health of the enemy is 10 and the damage is 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the enemy is destroyed after a 1 second delay. Now I'm just going to create a health bar for the enemy. So inside enemy prefab, I'm going to create an empty, call it health bar. And I'll prefab the health bar so that we can use it for all the enemies and even the player. Now let's open up our health bar, and here I'm going to add an image. We have our image here. I'm going to call it background, and I'm going to child another image for this image and call this foreground. I'm going to give the background color red and the foreground color green. Now I'm going to set the canvas to world space and make all the positions as 0. I'm going to set the width to maybe 150 and height to 10. Okay, and so that we have a canvas here. and we just need to adjust our background and foreground to match the canvas. So I'm just going to make it stretch here and here as well. Sorry, here as well. Yeah, and I'm going to set all left, top, right, and bottom to 0. So we can see that the background and foreground are matching the canvas. Now if we try to scale down the foreground, because that is what we are going to do, when the player hits the enemy, we can see that it is reducing from both sides. To make it reduce from one side, if we check here, we have a circle here. We should have the circle to the left side. So for that, I'm just going to change the I'm just going to change the pivot to 0 and set the scale to 1. Now if we try changing the foreground, you can see that it is reducing from the right side. So now we have a, now we look the scene, we have a huge health bar. So to reduce that, all we need to do is change the scale here. So we have on our canvas, so I'm just going to change it to 0.01 on all axes. Let's set this foreground to 1 again. Yeah. Now let's open our enemy prefab. So we have our enemy here, and health bar is at the middle of the enemy. I'm just going to drag it up. Sorry, this is the health bar. So we have it on top of the enemy. Now if we see the game scene, we can see that the health bar is on top of the enemy. I'm going to add a new script. So create C# script and call it health bar. And we'll attach our health bar to the empty health bar object. So and apply to prefabs. Let's open our health bar here. Here I'm just going to have two variables. One for the health component. So health component. We're going to get the health component from a parent. So here health component is equal to get component in parent health, so that we can use it for all the enemies. And going to have a rect transform for our foreground, because we are going to scale down the foreground from here when the player hits the enemy. So rect transform foreground. And in update, all we need to do is scale down. So foreground dot local scale is equal to new vector 3. We don't need to scale it in Z or Y axis, so I'm going to set it to 1. Here I'm going to call mathf dot max of 0 comma health component dot, we'll need to create a new method in our health. So let's just call it get health factor. Now let's create the health factor here inside our health script. So public float get health factor, and return start I mean current health divided by start health. So we can have a health between 0 and 1. So everything is set up now. Now we try playing. Yeah, inside our health bar, we need to set a foreground. So let's just drag our foreground onto a foreground transform, and health component will be automatically taken from the enemy. So now if we try playing, and if we hit the enemy, you can see that our health is getting reduced in the health bar. And if we hit the enemy a fourth time, the enemy disappears or get destroyed. So another problem we are going to have is if we hit play and try rotating the enemy, we can see that the health bar is rotating with the enemy, and but it would be really hard to see the health bar if the enemy is facing like this. So we want our health bar to always face the camera. For that, I'm just going to create a new script, face camera. Let's attach it to our health bar. And add the component, apply to prefab, open it up in Visual Studios, and we just need a update method here. And in update, I'm just going to set the transform of the help bar. So game object, or just transform dot forward is equal to the transform dot forward of our main camera. So camera dot main dot forward transform dot forward. So that's all we need. Now let's check it out. Now if we get the enemy and try rotating it, we can see that the health bar doesn't rotate with the enemy because it's always facing the camera. This scene just looks very dull, so I'm just going to make a terrain yellow, give the enemy a purple color, and maybe add some ice. Like I'll just add two spheres here, call it ice. And let's just reduce the size to 0.1. Yeah, that's all right. And maybe create two more spheres here, call it eyeball. And I'll just apply it to our enemy prefab, and maybe give the eyeball red color. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe we'll add a mouth too. So so yeah, now that's a really creepy looking enemy. Let's just try to play it on maximize. So we have our enemy here, and if we try to shoot it, the health bar is reducing, and on a fourth hit, health bar is 0, and the enemy gets destroyed. So Yeah, let's just quickly add this to our prefab as well. And that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day. And please try to share and subscribe. Peace.